Welcome to the Dope Sheets, just one guy's opinion. I'm Wayne Demers, and here's my opinion on a spoiler-filled The Batman review. Okay, so we've done a non-spoiler review where I just talked in general terms about the movie, and my conclusion or my opinion was that you should go and see it right now. Go this weekend. Don't let anybody ruin it for you. The Batman is playing in IMAX, all local theaters across the country. I saw it in IMAX, so this is an IMAX review. And I gave it a thumbs up, man. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I loved it so much. I saw it on Tuesday, and I went and saw it yesterday, Thursday, and today is Friday, March 4th. Today is their official release date, and I've been saying all along that I thought that it would make around 120 million. I have no idea if they'll hit that or not, but that's what I hope they'll hit. I've heard some pundits out there think that it'll make under that. I think the goal is for it to make around 110 to 115 million. But after I saw it, it just is very, very rewarding. If you are a Batman fan, whether it's the Adam West Batman or the Christopher Nolan series Batman or the Michael Keaton version of Batman. I just don't know how or a Ben Affleck version. This is an outstanding Batman performance. And let's start right away. How it's written. Okay. So again, this is a spoiler. I'm going to be talking about details in the story. So if you don't want to know about the story, if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want to know anything about it, now is the time for you to go ahead and go and watch my non-spoiler or go watch some other pundit out there. There's some great people out there on YouTube who did. John Campea is my favorite. So go and check his reviews out. There are a couple more that are out there that I really enjoy as well. But this is my own opinion, not swayed by anybody else's opinion here. In fact, I usually wait to watch their reviews before I even give mine because sometimes I feel like I'm going to say something that's very similar in what they say, and I don't want anybody thinking I'm stealing their review. So anyway, my review is this. Let's talk about the writing. It was written by Matt Reeves and Peter Craig. Matt Reeves also is the director of this film. Now, he's directed a couple of movies, mostly like the Planet of the Apes series. He was a writer, I think, on one or two of those and directed. So he's a veteran. He's seasoned. And it comes across because this guy understands, or these two, Michael and Peter, they definitely understand Batman. Okay? And they understand Batman as the great detective Batman because we get a lot of detective work here. We start off the story, the things that you need to know to kind of set the stage is this is year 2 of Bruce Wayne being Batman. So he's still kind of coming into himself as Batman. I don't think he totally feels as though he knows what his role will be other than he's vengeance. And that's a literal take on it. He calls himself Vengeance. So the movie opens where we see through the Riddler's binoculars and he's spying on someone. And it turns out to be the mayor of Gotham and his family. Now we get what I think is our first Easter egg in that scene. There's a child that's in there. He's dressed up to go out trick-or-treating on Halloween night. Don't really know that right off the bat. I think there's a little sleight of hand like making you think, oh, who am I seeing here? Is this young Bruce Wayne? Is this Bruce Wayne's son, Damian? Because he's dressed up somewhat as a ninja. He's got a sword. He's horsing around with his sword. But boy, to me, that looked like Damian Wayne, Bruce Wayne's son. And I thought that was a little nod to that. To me, that was an Easter egg. And then we find out, later that it's the Riddler, and he's there to bring the mayor of Gotham to justice for his undoings. And the story truly is that we're following the Riddler on a killing spree as he's trying to unveil the corruption within the politicians of Gotham and the police department, and how they were working with the underground or the mob of Gotham, and with Maroni and Falcone. Those are two of the mobsters, and they sell drugs. I think they're called drop heads. They're eye drops that that people take to, I guess, become intoxicated or get high. So as the story evolves, we follow the Riddler on his killing spree, and now he leaves some riddles, clues to why or who his next victim is. And so we follow from the mayor to then, I believe it's the captain of police of Gotham's police department. And so one thing about this scene is he is killed, according to the movie. Batman says, Lieutenant, what's his name? Lieutenant Gordon. He's a lieutenant now. He's not commissioner. He's a lieutenant. So Lieutenant Gordon says he was killed with arsenic. And then Batman says, rat poison. Now, the guy has got some kind of a device where it looks like rats in some type of a maze. And we see that his mouth is kind of taped. The guy can't yell or scream. And again, this turns out to be the captain of Gotham Police. And so we don't know what the device is, but we know that he's the next victim. He's videotaped, and the Riddler gives his little spiel on it, his little dialogue on it. But I think that that's not how he truly died. I believe this might have been, there was a reshoot to kind of rewrite how he died. And I'll tell you about that in a moment when we get down to a couple of the things that I find maybe an issue with the movie. Anyway, so then we go from him to the next person. And eventually what you realize is this is a whodunit movie. Who did it? But it's not about the Riddler and who's killing these people, because we know it's the Riddler. The thing that we find out as we keep going through is this is who killed Bruce Wayne's father, Thomas Wayne, and his mother, Martha Wayne. This is about that. Who killed them? And that's what's driving Bruce and Batman at this point, because now they've got this lead. Somehow the Waynes get tied into the story through a charitable thing they've got set up, account that they have set up to help kids in the city of Gotham. And but how when Thomas Wayne dies, the politicians get their hand on that fund, and so does some of the crime lords in Gotham. And that just kind of turns out to be some type of a laundering slush fund for them. And that's what's uncovered ultimately by the Riddler, and what he's trying to expose to the public of Gotham. And we also get so one thing that's nice is this is not an origin story of Batman. However, it is an origin story, so to speak, of Catwoman, Selina Kyle, how she's really kind of coming into becoming Catwoman. Penguin, well, we know the Penguin is a mobster, but he's not a crime boss, at least not yet. We'll get to that in a little bit. So it's a and the Riddler. It's an origin story of the Riddler. That's what we get for an origin story, not how Bruce Wayne becomes Batman. And I'm kind of happy, because one of the things I have to say is I'm so fed up with the retelling of an origin story of Batman or Spider-Man or Superman. We all know the story. So I like that when we come into this story, Bruce Wayne has already assumed the role of Batman. And we don't need that explained to us, even if you're going to tie in Thomas Wayne and Martha Wayne into the story. That's fine, but I just didn't need a retelling, and we didn't get that. And that, to me, is where Matt and Peter really understood what the audience wants to see. They want to see Batman. And boy, do we get a lot of Batman in this movie. Matter of fact, I'd say we probably get about 20% Bruce Wayne and 80% Batman in this movie. And if I'm going to see a Batman movie, I'm happy. I'm not upset. I know there are those that feel like, hey, we didn't get enough Bruce Wayne in this movie. I think we got exactly the amount we needed to get of Bruce Wayne. Because Bruce Wayne, to quote John Campea, is very damaged. Okay, he's very damaged. And I agree. He still is coming to terms with the death of his parents. And we always get that. Even Bruce, throughout the whole time that he's Batman, always deals with his motivation is always his parents. Whether it's to avenge them or to continue some type of legacy, it's the death of his parents that motivate Bruce Wayne. So he's still damaged, still coming to terms with it, and he takes out some of that angst on his butler, Alfred, in which we learn Alfred became kind of a father figure and raised Bruce. And the thing that we learn is that maybe Alfred doesn't feel like he did the best job of raising him, but this was the best that he could do. This was the best that he could do. So so that brings me down to the cast. You have Robert Pattinson as Batman and Bruce Wayne. I think he nailed Batman. He absolutely, everything. He's so iconic. The suit, everything is iconic. Suit is so functional. He's got the bat on the chest, iconic. What we find out in the movie is that bat is actually the Batarang, that he can pull it out of his chest and put it back. That, to me, I thought was great, functional. He's got his utility belt is there. They don't make a big deal about it. It's not highlighted in yellow or any other color to bring much attention to it. But he utilizes it throughout the entire movie. So we get the bat belt, the utility belt. What I'm not sure about what Robert Pattinson does, though, is although he's a great Batman, I'm not sure where I am with him as Bruce Wayne. Then again, we're getting a damaged Bruce Wayne, which we don't often see. And so I'm hoping that if he comes back for a second or third, that we see the evolution of Bruce Wayne being more accepting of what his past is and what his role is as Bruce Wayne going forward. I think we got a lot of that with Christian Bale. Christian Bale as Bruce Wayne was the playboy, right? He's the playboy. He's the one that part of him throws everybody off the trail that he could be Batman, because no one truly takes him seriously. Yes, he's a business person, but they look at it as he inherited all of that, and he's just the, hey, I'm going out, party on the town, womanizing playboy. That's what you get with that version of him, at least to the public side. And then you have the serious part of Bruce Wayne, who does understand business and understands what his role is as Batman. With Pattinson, I feel like we're going to get a progression. So I'm hoping that the next movie, he's accepted his past, he's accepted as who he is, but now he's going to be more the philanthropist. He's going to be more involved, like his father was, in trying to help Gotham. But he's got to do it in more of a playboy fashion, so that way people aren't truly kind of understanding that he possibly could be Bruce Wayne. Okay? So, I'm sorry, that he could be Batman. That he could be Batman. So anybody who may have watched Twilight, which I can tell you I watched part of the first one and I never watched another one after, everybody I feel is kind of tainted with who Robert Pattinson is, and they just kind of tie into the Twilight series. But he has proved himself in other movies that he's been in, where he is truly, I think, at the peak of his craft right now. He's a master of his craft. He is an incredible actor. And I think, although this role may not be a stretch for many actors to take on the role of Batman, because, who couldn't just deepen their voice just a little bit and then become the voice of vengeance? Who couldn't do that? And then you're hidden through most of the costumes. So I think playing Batman from an acting standpoint, not from a physical standpoint, but from an acting standpoint, probably isn't much of a stretch. Playing Bruce Wayne, a little bit more complicated of a character to play. And again, I told you, we're still out. I'm still out on that one. I'm not really sure how I feel about him playing Bruce Wayne, and I think that I'll have more of a feel for it after I see the next film. All right, let's move on to Zoe Kravitz. Zoe Kravitz is Catwoman, Selina Kyle. And this is kind of an origin story for her. She's not quite a thief yet, but we find out she knows how to break into safes in the movie. She certainly can handle herself. She knows how to fight. She knows how to handle a whip, which I thought was interesting that she uses the whip quite a bit in the movie, but they never really allude to the fact or allude to it or make it a, hey, look, she's using a weapon or she's using this whip. They never really give you that. But if you pay attention, she uses it a number of times, whether it's to wrap somebody's feet and pull them down or to capture somebody and tie them up or to lower herself into a room. She uses it, but they just don't bring a lot of attention to it, which I appreciated. She's excellent. Excellent. She, I feel, really embodied who Selina Kyle is. And the chemistry between Robert Pattinson and Zoe Kravitz is, you can feel it on screen. It really worked. She was excellent. Jeffrey Wright, most people might know him from the HBO series. It's a remake. Oh, why can't I think of it? And I talked about it the other day. But anyway, you may know him from that series. Westworld. He was excellent in that series, and he's excellent in this as Lieutenant Gordon, not quite the commissioner yet. So still cutting his teeth, out there in detective world, working hand in hand with Batman. He does not know Batman's true identity. He's been working with him for 2 years. There's still some trust issues, I think, going back and forth with them, but they work together as a team. That is clearly established, and I really enjoyed that because I didn't need to see their introduction or how one believes the okay, we come in, they trust each other. Okay, let's just keep going. I really appreciated that in the movie. Excellent performance by Jeffrey Wright. Paul Dano. Paul Dano plays the Riddler, and he is an amazing actor. Like, I'm surprised we just haven't seen him in more films. He's done a number of films, but nothing big box office wise, other than his first film, which is, I mentioned it again the other day. He was in... boy. There Will Be Blood. He was excellent in that movie. The only thing I can think of is why we don't see him is his look. You definitely know it's him. I don't know what his stretch, what his emotional range is, but I can tell you, you may not think much of him at the beginning of this movie because for the most part, the Riddler is masked and doesn't exude too much personality other than what we think of as the Riddler or the traditional stereotypical Riddler. So, but by the end of the movie, oh man, he's gone psycho. And he does it so convincingly. And the transition to who he is as Riddler to who he is as a psycho individual, because he clearly says, when I put the mask on, I'm unapologetic. This is who I am. I'm not the Riddler. I'm not my original persona, Edward. I forget what they use as his last name. But he's not that guy. He's this guy. He's the Riddler. That's who his true identity is. Just as he claims that the Batman is Bruce Wayne's true identity and the mask is actually Bruce. So, but boy, once he goes kind of psycho, he does an amazing job. And literally you can feel like the audience kind of sit back in their seat like, whoa, you drew us in as the Riddler and then I'm pushing you away as whoever you truly are. Amazing performance by him. Then you have John Turturro, excellent actor, been in many, many, many things. I don't think that this movie was much of a stretch for him. He does a lot of similar characters. His performances are always solid. always, and he's solid in this one as well. I really enjoyed his performance. Andy Serkis plays Alfred, and Andy Serkis is no stranger to Matt Reeves because he does. I can't even think of the character's name now in the movie, but he's like the main gorilla that's in, or the main ape in Battle of the Apes, Battle of the Planet of the Apes. He is so good as Alfred, but his time on screen is small. But every moment he's on screen, there's a purpose for him being there, and he's an excellent Alfred. I think we'll get more Alfred if we do see a second and third movie, and I think his screen time will increase because he truly does embody who Alfred is as far as a caring person. Never mind just the butler, not just the guy to watch out after Bruce. He embodies the, like, hey, I'm also the one who trained you. We get that vibe too. This isn't like Christian Bale that went off, got trained, and then came back to Gotham. This seems to be that Andy Serkis was able to train him, probably bring other educators into his life and train him to ultimately become Batman. But to me, hands down, the best performance was Colin Farrell as Oswald Cobblepot, and he's the Penguin. You can't tell that he's the Penguin because the makeup is so outstanding. Whether it's facial expressions, the inflection in his voice, his kind of New York accent that he puts on, even though I think although we're in Gotham, Gotham kind of falls into Chicago, but he's got a very thuggish voice. But unlike any other character I've seen him play, sure, we've seen him play the bad guy. That's fine. But this one, he kind of walks that line because we don't see the Penguin as 100% mobster, but he is. And the good news is HBO Max is going to be doing a series. It's either about Arkham Asylum, and he's going to be part of it, or it's about the Penguin's rise through the underworld of Gotham. So one way or another, we're getting Colin Farrell in there as the Penguin on HBO Max. And after seeing this version of the Batman, and we know that the story on HBO Max is going to tie in to the series, I'm very excited. Very, very excited. In fact, that's going to keep my subscription going on HBO Max, from Peacemaker, which was outstanding, to now this upcoming series. I'll be holding on to HBO Max. I'm very, very excited about that. So that's pretty much the bulk of the cast, or the main characters, main actors in this series. So now let's go down. We talked about the story, and it's really about Batman trying to uncover who killed his parents, but we're following the story of how the Riddler is killing people to uncover this whole plot that there's a misutilization of funds through one of the charitable funds that Thomas Wayne had set up. And so that's pretty much the crux of the story. In the end, the Riddler wants to take down Gotham. He blows the walls up that keep the river at bay, and he floods Gotham. And it's the moment in which I feel that Batman, although he's a vigilante, we know that because we see how the police view him whenever he's present on the scene, to maybe now he's going to be welcomed by the citizens of Gotham, because we see that he turns out to be a savior to them in their moment of need, especially through the upcoming mayor. So it'll be interesting to see where they go with this, because when this movie ends, Gotham is actually underwater. Much of Gotham is underwater. So be very interesting to see how that plays out. Some of the highlights in the movie. Batsuit. If I'm going to see a Batman movie, I want to see a Batsuit. Very functional, utility belt, Batman symbol, batarang, all of that, his grappling gun, all of that's there. Excellent costume. Love that he could turn his head, how he could turn it to kind of grimace at the screen, or just have a lack of emotion where he's just staring at you, kind of looking through you when he needs to. Love that. The fight sequences, the choreography there, the stunt men and women in this, amazing, because the fight sequences, even though brief, between Catwoman and Batman were awesome. Clearly, she can hold her own with Batman, but Batman is more well seasoned, and I don't think that he felt that Catwoman was much of an opponent for him. I didn't feel like he had any difficulty beating her, but definitely saw that she is somebody who's trained, and he had to be careful. Everybody else that she faces, she kind of kicks their ass, so that's awesome. We get a Batcave. Who doesn't want to see a Batcave? And in that Batcave, there got to be some things. There's got to be a Batmobile. Oh yeah, we see the Batmobile. Batmobile is there. It's covered up, partially covered even in a scene or two. We get a Bat computer. Doesn't call it a Bat computer, but it was awesome when you see multiple screens and he's punching things in, and then there's a printout, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. It's the Bat computer. All right. The Bat Cycle. One of the things about this movie is Bruce Wayne, even if he's kind of playing Batman, like, here's one of the things I don't care for is he always keeps his bat suit in a backpack as he's driving around. Kind of like Spider-Man always has a backpack with his. So I kind of felt like you're kind of stealing. I don't know how much I really care for that whole idea, because I feel like you could have fit Batman's cape in there, but you're not fitting a cowl. You're not fitting his boots. You're not fitting the thing. But okay, Wayne, all right, you know what? I'll check my hat at the door with my brain in it, and I'll just accept it. That inside that backpack is his whole bat suit. So that comes into play because Bruce Wayne is always zipping around town on a motorcycle. Fine. I thought that was cool. But you see the bat cycle. And I only noticed it on my second time watching it, that when we're looking down through the Batcave, on the left as a silhouette is the bat cycle. It's right there. And the only time we see the bat cycle is, and I'll get to that in a minute, Bruce Wayne, we've seen him drive a lot of different cars over the years. Bruce Wayne now, not Batman like he has a Batmobile, but Bruce Wayne. We've seen him drive some really nice cars. So I was very surprised when I think it's either a 64, 63 Corvette Stingray split window. And I was like, wow, today that is kind of a very elegant, sexy looking car, but it's also the muscle car of its day, one of the muscle cars in its day. And maybe that was also a nod to the Michael Keaton version of Batman, because that chassis, I believe, was a Corvette chassis that they built the Batmobile on. So that could have been a nod, might be another Easter egg there. I'm not really sure, but I really did appreciate the fact that we have an American superhero driving an American car, or at least Bruce Wayne, who's American playboy, and he's driving an American sport car, not like an Aston Martin or anything, which I love Aston Martins, but it was just nice to see an American car treated as an elegant and yet sporty Bruce Wayne car that he would own. So that was pretty cool. And then the Bat Cycle. Bat Cycle doesn't get a lot of notoriety in it. I don't know what it has as far as its capabilities, like we saw in the Christian Bale movies, which that was an awesome Bat Cycle. But this one here, you can tell the difference. Just look at the back tire, look at the headlight design and the shield that's there, because when he's in his bat suit and he's driving the Bat Cycle, you can tell it's the Bat Cycle. When he's Bruce Wayne going around town, it's kind of like a dirt bike that he's using driving around town. And then you got to have a Batmobile. Is this the most amazing Batmobile we've ever seen? I don't know. I think it was pretty cool that it could go through a concrete tube. I thought it was pretty cool that you could look at it and see the functional aspect of the Batmobile. It didn't look like a bat. So we're not looking at the Adam West version of a Batmobile. We're not looking at the animated series. We're not looking at pretty much any iteration of any Batmobile. Even if you go back to the 1940s with their movies where the Batmobile was truly just a plain car in black. That's all it really was. This car looks like he's been turning wrenches on it, come up with some kind of a turbine engine for it and everything. And I'm going to tell you, I try to run my brain through all the movies I've seen, and I can't come up with more of an amazing introduction to the Batmobile. Kind of catches you off guard because you're just not anticipating the Batmobile to be present. It's off in the shadows. Nobody knows that it's there. Batman disappears. He pops up. He's in the Batmobile. He gets that thing going. First thing you hear is the engine starts. Then you hear the turbine kick in. Then you hear him revving it. Then he lets, I guess he kind of lets up on the clutch a little bit, just lurches it forward. I know there's one reviewer out there that says he stalled it. I don't believe he stalled it. I think he just lunged it forward as an aggressive punch to say, you can run, but I'm going to get you, or you can give up. And they ran. And we got that whole chase scene, much of what we see already in the trailer. But by far, to me, was like, hey, the hair on my arm stood up. People in the theater woke up like, holy crap. I don't care if you're a fan of cars, not a fan of cars. You had to be excited that was an introduction to a character. Yes, the Batmobile is a character to me in the Batman series. It was amazing. Amazing. If there's anything that you're going to like in that whole movie, I bet it's going to be the introduction to the Batmobile. That was amazing. So anyway, you're hearing a lot of good things from me because I mean, I'm going to tell you, I give this thing if I had a scale of 1 to 10, I usually don't do this, but if I had a scale of 1 to 10, I have to say the Batman is a good 9.7. To me, 9.7. Why? Now, it's not a perfect movie. It's not a perfect movie because there's a scene where Batman becomes unconscious. That's because the character that we see, who is the DA, the character that we see with the neck, the bomb that's around his neck, and he's got like a cell phone that's tied to his hand, and or taped to his hand rather. When that thing explodes, Batman goes flying, gets knocked unconscious. When he wakes up, he's in the precinct. He's in Gotham PD precinct, and they're looking down on him, and they're like, I don't care who he is. I want to see him unmasked. And that's when Bruce Wayne wakes up, or Batman wakes up, and is like, no, boom, boom, boom. And then we find out, that they want to arrest him. They want to bring him to justice because you're interfering in everything. And Lieutenant Gordon's like, hey, just give me a minute, okay? I'll talk to him. Just give me a minute. I'll get him to work with us. So then he pulls Batman aside and says, hey, here's the key. You're going to punch me and you're going to run out. And after that whole escapade, and we see that also in the trailer when he shoots the grappling gun and all the police are chasing him and everything. That scene ends up with the chief of police, Chief Mackenzie Bach, played by Con O'Neill, who I'm not even sure what else I've seen him in, but right away I'm like, I know I've seen him in something. Good actor. Does a good job in the movie. He puts out an APB. I want him. We're going to arrest him. So there's where my problem is, because at that point now, the police department should be hunting down Batman. And later on in the movie, Batman is present with all of the police. He's looking through the Riddler's apartment. He's right there doing his investigative stuff again, but no one's there to arrest him. No one's there that says, hey, we had that incident down there and I'm going to cuff you. No one ever brings that up. So I don't know if there was resolution to that whole scene that actually hit the cutting room floor, and that scene never made it into the movie. But I kind of felt like, wait a minute, just one moment, Gotham PD is all about arresting him, and now we're working with him. To me, there was no resolution in there, and I just thought that was kind of awkward. So that's one thing. The second thing is, I brought it up earlier. One of the Riddler's victims was the guy had something taped to his mouth, around his face, and on his chest, and it had two rats in it. It turned out to be a maze. And while I was watching this, I'm like, okay, so this whole thing about it with the rats is that the Riddler wants to know, or he does know, who the rat was that sold out Falcone. Nope, sorry, Maroni. So he's trying to bring this rat out to the light. Okay, that's the term there. Bring him into the light. And so that thing, I thought, oh man, that's kind of harsh, man. He must have starving rats and they're going to eat through a hole and probably kill him that way. But Lieutenant Gordon says that, yeah, they killed him. They gave him a shot of arsenic. And Batman says, rat poison. So you get that tie-in. They think maybe he's the rat. Is he the rat? We don't know. But he died from arsenic. However, when we get to the apartment that the Riddler was in, there is a mock-up of that device where there's a mannequin, and clearly there is this hose that hits a mouthpiece that goes in the mouth, and then there's tubes. And I think that may even tie into the mock-up of what the rats would have been in. And then there's a cage there that also has rats. So I think to me it makes a heck of a lot more sense that he didn't die of arsenic. These were starved rats, and the rats had to make their way through a maze to get to the guy's mouth and probably entered that guy's body that way. And that is how he died. And I think that may have come across as being way too harsh, probably would have given them an R rating or something like that, but they remedied that with a reshoot where Lieutenant Gordon says, no, it was a shot of arsenic. But as you see, that doesn't make any sense to have a maze with rats. That makes no sense. What's the maze for? Where are they going? And then when we see the mock-up on a bust, on a mannequin, and you see the whole mouthpiece, to me it just screamed like, yeah, he didn't die of an arsenic shot. He died from those rats. That if you talk and you tell the cops, or you tell somebody, tattle on them, then you're a rat. And you know what? Words come out your mouth, so the rats went down the mouth, and that's my connection there. I kind of thought that was odd, that I noticed that. I noticed it the first time I saw the movie, and then I paid very close attention to it the second time I saw the movie, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think I'm far off with that. So to me, that's why it's not a perfect movie. Okay. And then the other reason why it's not a perfect movie, I think the total runtime is 2 hours, 56 minutes. And I don't know if that actually includes the credits. So it feels long after we've arrested the Riddler and he's in Arkham. After that, I feel like we're kind of dragging things on, and it feels more of a traditional Batman movie that we've gotten in the past. So there's a lot of action. There's a hero scene. He does a lot of heroic stuff, a lot of fight. And that was fine. I enjoyed it. That's when I started to feel like, this is kind of dragging on a little bit. So that was cool. Gotham. I didn't talk about that as far as highlights. Gotham. Man, let me tell you, when I saw The Joker, the movie The Joker, I thought, wow, this is really a gritty Gotham here, right? I kind of liked it. Reminded me of like New York City in the 70s, trash all over the place, and buildings that are starting to become decrepit. I got a lot of that feeling in this movie. Whenever they take us around to different places, I thought it was pretty cool. I'm like, this kind of has the feeling of Chicago in the 70s or New York in the 70s, but it's not the 70s. We're modern day. And you can see that there's more affluent neighborhoods or areas, more technically advanced areas of the city. But when we go down to the underground, we're in the shady side of Gotham. You know, where what was it? I think I saw a sign like it said like iceberg and penguin ice bags or ice whatever. It was something that's where the penguin is, and I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. So it's a neat way to say, this is the penguin's lair. 44 below, 44 degrees below zero. Isn't that where the penguin would be? Yeah, that's that. That's one of the nightclubs called 44 below, and I was like, oh, cool. See, this is how the writers know. They know where to give the little nod to the casual viewer or to somebody who's not even into Batman. It just went over their head. Okay, so it's called 44 Below. No big deal. Not thinking Penguin's Lair, 44 Below Zero. Yeah, so cool little Easter egg. These are the things that are in there with the writing that one that's familiar with Batman can appreciate. So Gotham, I thought was great. I felt like it was very, very, very close to Christopher Nolan's version of Gotham. It was very close to that, if not the same. But that's okay, because why fix what isn't broken? And that definitely wasn't broken. Christopher Nolan's version of the Batman was amazing. Was amazing. You know, Dark Knight, that is still my favorite Batman movie. I mean, Heath Ledger as the Joker was amazing. Nailed it. I don't know who could play the Joker after him, but I have a feeling we're going to find out, because in one of the last scenes is the Riddler is talking to another person that's locked up in Arkham, and clearly that is the Joker. Okay, it's the Joker. Will we get him in the next movie? I hope not, to be honest with you. I feel like we're a little Jokered out. I think there's a lot more villains in Batman's rogues gallery. You know, I wouldn't mind seeing something with Clayface. To me, that would be a much more of a challenge for Batman to figure out who this villain is if it was Clayface. Could it be Two-Face? You know, we get a little bit more of a Two-Face origin story, but this time we'll treat it real. We'll treat it as though it could have happened versus how the iteration of how we got Two-Face in that version too in Dark Knight, so which was done very, very well now that I think about it. But I always keep thinking to back to Batman and Robin. I believe it was that one that we had the Joker and we had the Riddler and Two-Face. But anyway, there's so many others, so many others that we could get into, and it would be very interesting to see, maybe we get a true interpretation of Bane. Yes, we got Christopher Nolan's version. I wasn't a fan of that version. I don't think there was anything wrong with the acting. I do think it's very difficult. It's very difficult to talk and emote when you have something over your face. And it was just difficult to watch that portrayal of Bane. I think there's a lot of things you have to overcome, but we overcome it when we see Spider-Man. So, because Spider-Man's fully got a face mask on, and we can deal with that. So, I just feel like there's a version of Bane yet to come to the big screen that I like, and maybe we could explore that one. I know on the animated series, I love the fact that he was some kind of mercenary, and he came down to kind of hunt down Batman. And he truly was one of Batman's most difficult opponents, because Bane was extremely intelligent, was an excellent hunter, and he was extremely imposing physically, because not only because he had the venom, the strength enhancer, but he was just he had a very imposing stature to begin with. So to me, there's a lot of things that we go to. I don't feel like we need to see the Joker yet. In fact, if they were going to do 3 movies, I'd rather see the Joker come in the last one and us really have one heck of a good time with Batman fighting the Joker in the 3rd iteration of this Batman. Which brings me to just kind of wrap things up. I think some people can be confused with Batman. So when I left the theater the first time, I felt like a lot of what I was hearing from people around me was they enjoyed the film, but they like this part of Batman better with this version, and that part of the Batman with that version, and Michael Keaton and Christian Bale, and it goes back and forth, right? I rarely heard Clooney. I rarely ever heard Adam West. Adam West, I think, never really comes into these conversations because he was, to many, the first Batman, and it was done in such a campy style that they just don't draw that comparison. And I can't think of who the heck Val Kilmer was the other Batman. And I'm sorry, Val Kilmer, I didn't care for him as Batman or as Bruce Wayne. And it's not because of him, but I think just the story, the writing, Schumacher's vision for it, I didn't care for it. So, but now we've also got Ben Affleck as Batman. He's in the Justice League, or actually in the Flash movie that'll be coming. So he'll be in that. So that's a version of Batman. We've got Robert Pattinson's version of Batman. And Michael Keaton is going to be playing Batman again in the Batwoman, CW series, I think is what it is. And he'll be making an appearance there. So we'll have 3 versions of Batman at the same time over the next year or so. And I'm just curious to see how that may play out, because I think as a viewer, myself, I view myself as an average viewer of television and film. I think I can definitely discern between the different versions of Batman, but I think the movie studios are kind of worried or concerned that we're going to have multiple versions of Batman, and how are we going to confuse people, or are we going to confuse people with which version of Batman they're actually going to be seeing? To me, I say go for it, because we know there's different versions of Batman. There's different versions of the Batman comic book. You know, we've got some where he has a Robin, some he doesn't have a Robin, some he has a son, some he's got Nightwing. I mean, there's different versions out there. Let the viewer beware. When I came out of the theater last night, there was a woman, a wife and husband talking while they were waiting on their son. And she was like, you know what? I really liked this. This was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. And right away, I'm like, oh, that's so good to hear. This woman was not a fan of Batman, but she wasn't against it. She knew nothing of the movie. She was familiar with Robert Pattinson in the Twilight series, but she didn't appear to be swayed that he was going to be Bruce Wayne and Batman in this. But when I'm listening to somebody who felt like maybe she didn't have a dog in this fight whatsoever, I'm just going to go sit down, enjoy my time with my family. And she came out of the theater saying, wow, what a good time. That was amazing. I really, really liked it. You know what? That's great. That is exactly what I want to hear, because I want to see Robert Pattinson come in. I want to see Matt Reeves. Matt Reeves, I want to see you write the second and third installment in this. Make it a trilogy. Hell, I don't care. Make it 4. But let's just do well on the next one, okay? Because you hit a home run. You hit a home run. You hit this one out of the park for this one, okay? I truly think you're going to gross 120 this weekend, and that'll be fabulous. That'll be outstanding. And I think, if anything, what it should teach is to these movie studios is, and I'm going to kind of tag along. I've had this belief, but Robert Myers, he's on John Campia's channel. He also has his own channel. So sorry, Robert, if you happen to see this and I can't think of your last name. But anyway, if you look up, I think it's called Robservations is where his channel is. But I agree with him 110%, which is movie studios, bring in writers, bring in filmmakers, bring in people who want to be dedicated to be completely vested in producing the movie that you want to put out, and let them go off with their vision before you bring on somebody. And this happens so many times with Star Wars, and anybody who knows I'm a major Star Wars fan. So my big rant on Star Wars here is, you hire a director or 2 and you bring them in and you say, this is the vision. What do you say? This is my vision. You collaborate, you talk about it, you agree, and then the guy starts down his path of what he's going to do, and they say, no. Either you fired 2 two people who were directing the Han Solo movie, and you ended up in that fiasco. And then, or you just pull off, I think there were two that was supposed to write, the two writers for Game of Thrones, and you pulled them off of what they were going to work on. And I don't care what you put out there as, or there was a conflict of scheduling conflict they couldn't end up doing. You know whether or not you have a scheduling conflict when you're talking to them and you tell them when you want the movie to come out. You know this. Okay, as a business person myself, I kind of know that you got to look at calendars before you even bring anybody on board. So you can throw that out the window. I'm not buying that. But Warner Brothers, you just hit a home run with Matt Reeves. Clearly, these two, Matt Reeves and Peter Craig, they understand Batman. Let them bring the PG-13/R-rated version to the screen. They know the characters. They understand what the readers and the fans of Batman enjoy. So you know what? Let them do it. Let them go off on their thing, and let them do it their way. Because clearly the fans are enjoying what it is that they're putting out. So in summary, I don't know how long I've been talking now. It's going to be over a half an hour. Actually, 50 minutes. Holy cow. Kind of a long review here, but if you're going to go see Batman, I almost said Superman. If you're going to go see Batman, the Batman, I don't know how you can't like it. Now, maybe you don't, because this is just my opinion. Okay, not influenced by anybody. I paid for every ticket I've gone to see, and I may go see it one more time, 3 times in 1 weekend. The only time I've ever done that was a Star Wars movie. Okay, so I may go see it one more time this weekend. I really enjoyed it. I think you'll really enjoy it, and I hope that this little review that I've done here gives you some insight as to what you can expect going into the movie, and hopefully you come out feeling as rewarded as I did, that you just spent $17, $18 on a ticket and you got your money's worth when you came out. Because it's rare that you're going to spend like $20 on a ticket, or less than $20, and you get a 3-hour movie close to it, and you feel like, wow, that was money well spent. I was entertained. So I hope that's what you end up with. I'm Wayne Demers. This is just one guy's opinion. Feel free to leave yours down in the comments below. And please, I never asked for this, but if you would just like this video and subscribe, it helps me know what's working and what's not working. I'm not getting paid for any of this. I don't have enough viewers to get any money from YouTube from this. Just something I enjoy doing and enjoy talking about. And I would just appreciate if you just liked it and left a comment down below. Thank you. Have yourself a great weekend and go see the Batman.